Today I'll demonstrate how to paper piece on a quilt block. This quilt block is called Agave with Stained Glass from Raspberry Lane Crafts. There are two portions of this quilt block. The top portion is done with fusible interfacing, and the strip is paper pieced. This is the Agave with Stained Glass pattern. Today we will be using up these two pattern piece papers. So if you want to make a second one, you're going to have to photocopy it because these will not exist when we're finished with our pattern. Don't worry about where the pattern pieces fit together because included in the pattern is a placement diagram. You'll also need your fabric for this strip, and in this case I'm using aquas and greens, and make sure you have varying shades from light to dark to patterned because they're going to have to contrast each other in the strip so you can tell the different colors. Now we're going to iron two pieces of fabric for our first two pattern pieces, A1 and A2. You want to put your first piece of fabric for A1 down, and it's going to be right side down on a batik. That doesn't really matter. And then I'm going to lay this, I'm showing you on a light board, but I'm going to lay my first A1 piece down, and you can see that the fabric goes around at least a 1/4 inch outside of the A1 border here, and we're going to keep that in place. So we have our A1 fabric right side down. Then we're going to place our second piece for A2. We're going to place it right along the edge right here to where and it's going to be right side up, so the two right sides are facing each other. And when we sew this first line between A1 and A2, we're going to bend back the second fabric, and it's going to cover all of A2. It's going to look like that. I forgot to show you that I'm going to cut away the fabric is just going to lie back. I'm just going to hold it. I'm going to cut away the A section from the rest of them so we can focus. I'm going to lay that down. I'll just sew along the A1, A2 line. Make sure my feet are up. Down. And we can test to see if we're on track, because this piece is going to cover the A2 piece, and the A1 piece is covering all of that. As you can see, I've just laid this down. Maybe crease it, flip it over, and iron that. Along that line you just sewed. Look like that. And now we're going to rotary cut along this dash line. Just rotary cut along the dotted line. And that moved, but that's okay, I didn't hurt it. So there's A1 and A2 together. Now we're going to do A3. This is the next piece of fabric I'm going to use. It contrasts with this one. And I've ironed it. Now I'm going to just lay it in the middle. We're going to sew next A1 to A3 right along this line. So we have right sides together, always right sides together. I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to bend it on that line approximately to see that that side is going to be covered by this piece. So that's a good placement. Next I'm going to sew the A1 to A3 border right here. And then we're going to bend it back so this A3 is covered. It's going to look like that. I'm going to go iron it and then cut off this edge, the extra on the edge. Back to the ironing board. We folded this back. There's where we sewed. Folded this back and iron it. And next we're going to cut off these two because they're extra. You can use rotary. You don't want to cut off the paper. But I'm just using scissors here because it doesn't have to be exact right here. Pull that back. Iron again. And now I can go on to A4. I can trim it if I want. I'm just going to go ahead and sew A4 and then trim it. I've ironed this small piece. I kind of approximated the size. We'll see if it works. I'm just experimenting here. I'm just going to lay it down, and it does contrast with this piece. So I'm just going to lay it down. You'll get a feel for where to lay it. It's going to fold back. The bigger side is going to be toward this end because we're going to fold it back that way. So let's see if this will work. I'm folding it back along the line. This A3, A4 line, approximately. And it looks like it will, when bent back, cover the A4. So I'll leave that in place and sew along the A3, A4 border. Test it again on the A3, A4 border. Fold back. And it does cover all of the A4 plus a 1/4 inch around it. So we're going to go back to the iron it, trim the excess, iron it again. That's where we sewed. Don't cut the paper, just trim the edge. Don't cut yourself. Fold it back, iron again. Now you can see we've covered all those pieces. I'm gonna trim off this excess fabric right now. So that's block A. You can see you've got A1, A2, A3, and A4. and you have this 1/4" boundary. And I'm going to do block B next. I'm not going to show you that because it's the same way. Then I will come back and show you how to sew A to B. I did want to show you on the placement diagram where the A block is going to come together with the B block. So I cut the B block out of the paper. This is what we just did, the A block. And so as it shows in the placement diagram, the A4 is going to be right next to the B1. So you're going to want your fabric to contrast like that. The A4 block is going to be right next to the B1. So the next one is going to contrast. These are all 5 sections before they're sewn together. I pinned the A block in their 2 corners to the B block in its corners. And now I'm going to sew them together. I'm going to go iron it. I'm going to pin the AB block to the C block now. And sew those together. And go iron again. And it did work out right. Next I'll be sewing the agave block to the stained glass strip, which we just made, to the outside strip. And go iron that and then sew the rest on. Right now I have a couple of outside edges that don't match up with the outside strip, so I'm going to shave those off. Now they're flush and I'm going to sew it to the agave block. So all that's left to do is to flip it over and take off that paper. You take it off really carefully. Just a few techniques for ripping off this paper. You can bend it on its seams and rip it. You can use a seam ripper. and tear it off in little pieces. You just want to get all the pieces off of there before you do any quilting. That's how the back looks. And there's a pile of paper I just pulled off of it. This is the finished agave with stained glass block. This is the agave with stained glass pattern. This one is prickly pear with stained glass. It's part of the stained glass cactus collection. This is the finished quilt block of the prickly pear with stained glass.